You are about to meet your partner's parents for the first time, and something in you tightens. You rehearse what to say. You worry about what to wear, whether to bring a gift, whether you will laugh at the right moments and stay quiet at the wrong ones. These are just people, you tell yourself. They are supposed to like you. And yet the whole thing feels like an exam you can fail. Even years later, holidays with the in-laws carry a current of careful, unspoken negotiation that no one ever quite names. We treat this as social awkwardness, a personality quirk, something a confident person would shrug off. But that tension is not a flaw in you. It is one of the oldest social calculations your species ever ran. So why does meeting your partner's family feel so heavy with hidden rules? Here is the story we tell ourselves about in-laws. Family is family. Once two people fall in love and join their lives, everyone simply blends into one warm circle, and any tension that lingers is a sign that someone is being difficult, too sensitive, or bad at letting go. Love is supposed to dissolve the awkwardness. So when meeting the parents feels like walking a tightrope, we assume the problem is personal, a bit of immaturity we should have outgrown. But look at how universal this is, and that story falls apart. Nearly every human culture on Earth has elaborate rules, rituals, taboos, and customs built specifically around how you treat your in-laws. Whole systems of etiquette exist for one purpose: to manage this exact relationship. A tension that shows up everywhere, dressed in formal rules everywhere, is not a private failing. It is built in. And to understand why your nervous system treats your partner's family like high-stakes diplomacy, you have to go back to a world where, quite literally, it was. For your ancestors, a marriage was never just two people in love. It was a treaty between two separate groups. Picture the world they lived in, small bands of a few dozen people, scattered across a hard landscape, each one its own little world of kin who had known each other since birth. The problem was that you could not marry within your own band. The others were your siblings, your cousins, the children you grew up beside. Marrying them was unthinkable, and it was biologically disastrous. So if you wanted a partner, you had to look outward, to another band, a group of relative strangers who might just as easily be rivals over the same water, the same hunting ground, the same scarce game. And this is where marriage did its quiet, astonishing work. The anthropologist Claude Levi-Strauss argued that marriage in these societies was fundamentally an exchange, a way of binding two groups together through the giving and receiving of partners. When your band gave a daughter to theirs and theirs gave one to yours, the two groups were no longer strangers who might fight. They were now bound by blood, by shared grandchildren, by mutual obligation. A marriage turned a potential enemy into an ally. The early anthropologist Edward Tyler put the stakes with brutal clarity. The choice facing early human groups, he said, was between marrying out and being killed out. Form an alliance with your neighbors through marriage, or face them as rivals with nothing holding the peace together. A wedding in this world was not romance, it was foreign policy. And because the stakes were that high, marrying into another group came with serious, lasting obligations. You did not just take a partner and walk away. In many hunter-gatherer societies, a young man had to perform what anthropologists call bride service. After the marriage, he would go and live with his wife's family, sometimes for years, and prove himself by hunting for them, providing for her parents, working under the eyes of people who were not yet sure of him. He had to earn his place in their band. He was, in a very real sense, on probation. A stranger being slowly tested and absorbed into a tight web of kin who had every reason to watch him carefully. There were gifts to exchange, debts to honor, customs to observe, an entire ongoing relationship of give and take that did not end at the ceremony, but defined the rest of your life. Your in-laws were not just your partner's family. They were a foreign power you had allied with. and the alliance had to be maintained. This is why so many cultures evolved formal in-law rules so strict they can seem bizarre to us. Customs where a man may not look directly at his mother-in-law, may not speak her name, may not be alone in a room with her. These were not random superstitions. They were ways of managing a relationship so important and so charged with potential friction that people built careful walls of ritual around it to keep it from going wrong. The in-law bond was too valuable and too dangerous to leave to improvisation. So if this relationship was once a matter of survival, why does it still grip us now when no alliance hangs on it? Because the wiring was built for a world that has quietly vanished beneath us. Your instinct to read your partner's family as a separate group to be won over, to feel the weight of their judgment, to sense that you are being assessed and must prove your worth, evolved for a time when all of that was literally true. When marrying meant binding two survival groups together, and your standing with the in-law band could shape whether you ate, whether you were protected, whether your children thrived. Now you marry one person, not a group. Their family controls no hunting ground you need, holds no power over your survival, offers no alliance your life depends on. The treaty is gone. But the ancient negotiator inside you does not know that. It still walks into the room scanning faces, still feels the pull to be accepted, still treats the encounter as the delicate diplomacy it was for 100,000 years. This is what the strain with in-laws really is, an ancient alliance instinct firing in a world where the alliance no longer exists. The careful tension at the holiday table, the sense of being quietly evaluated, the way a single disappointing comment from a mother-in-law can sting far out of proportion, the friction when two families collide over a wedding or a grandchild, none of it is pettiness or immaturity. It is two groups of social animals, each carrying the deep instinct that marriage joins not two people, but two clans, trying to merge in a world that no longer gives them clear rules for how. The old rituals that once managed this, the bride service, the formal exchanges, the avoidance customs, are mostly gone, and we are left with the raw instinct and none of the structure. So the awkwardness floods in. We feel the ancient stakes without the ancient script. And because the instinct still insists this relationship matters enormously, the smallest slights between families can open wounds that last for years. Fights over seating charts and holidays standing in for a negotiation our ancestors took with deadly seriousness, because for them, it was. So the next time you feel that tightness before facing your partner's family, do not be ashamed of it, and do not mistake it for a flaw. Recognize it. That careful, watchful tension is one of the oldest social instincts you carry, handed down from ancestors for whom a marriage was a treaty between bands, and a new in-law was a stranger who had to be turned into an ally. You did not invent the urge to win over your partner's people, and you do not fail by feeling the weight of it. You inherited it, whole, from a world where joining two families meant joining two groups whose alliance could decide whether you survived the winter. The dinner is not a negotiation now. Your life does not hang on their approval. But the ancient diplomat in you does not know that, and it is only doing what it has always done, reading the other group, hoping to be accepted, and quietly working as your ancestors did for 10,000 generations to turn strangers into family.